Welcome to Feasting on the Word for December the 14th, 2022. This is an ancient discipline that we undertake when we participate in Feasting on the Word, one where a small passage of Scripture is read with only silence interspersed between the readings. It grants us an opportunity to really meditate on these smaller pieces of Scripture, to spend time with them, and to consider what they mean to us, to our life, and to our living. The ancient practice was called Lectio Divina, and it grew out of the monastic tradition as part of the way that they patterned their day and came to appreciate the Scriptures and ultimately memorize them and incorporate them into life. It is likened to feasting on the Word in the sense that through our readings, the initial one, it's like taking a bite of the Scripture. Then hearing the same passage again, it's beginning to savor its flavors, what it has to say to us. Then hearing it again is like really beginning to incorporate that in. And the fourth and final reading is like swallowing it down, allowing it to really be the source of our energy and vitality and life. So feasting on the Word. As we undertake this discipline, I use 4 unique translations of the same passage, beginning with the New Revised Standard Version, then the Message, then the Contemporary English Version, and then concluding with the New International Version. A minute of silence follows the first reading, a minute follows the second, a longer period of 3 minutes follows the third reading, and then we conclude the discipline with the fourth and final reading. That longer period of silence is given as an opportunity to turn to God in prayer. Having heard this same passage 3 times, we take our impressions of this passage, how it challenges us, confuses us, inspires us, encourages us, whatever it might be, and lift that to God in prayer. For myself, I know that reading through the Scriptures the first 3 times, I find it helpful to be able to write down my impressions as I hear that. So you might also find it helpful to have something to write with and something to write on nearby to write down those impressions so that when we get that longer period of 3 minutes of silence, you can take that and use that as part of your prayer. Let's now turn to our discipline this week. Our reading comes to us from the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 9 through 14. First from the New Revised Standard Version. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Our second reading of the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 9 through 14, from the Message. The life light was the real thing. Every person entering life, he brings into light. He was in the world was there through him, and yet the world didn't even notice. He came to his own people, but they didn't want him. But whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed and would do what he said, he made to be their true selves, their child of God selves. These are the God begotten, not blood begotten, not flesh begotten, not sex begotten. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son, generous inside and out, true from start to finish. John chapter 1, verses 9 through 14 from the Contemporary English Version. The true light that shines on everyone was coming into the world. The Word was in the world, but no one knew him, though God had made the world with his Word. He came into his own world, but his own nation did not welcome him. Yet some people accepted him and put their faith in him. So he gave them the right to be the children of God. They were not God's children by nature or because of any human desires. God himself was the one who made them his children. The Word became a human being and lived here with us. We saw his true glory, the glory of the only Son of the Father. From him the complete gifts of undeserved grace and truth have come down to us. Our fourth and final reading of John 1, verses 9 through 14, the New International Version. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.